Hello, everyone, and welcome down to episode 98 of the Down South Photo Show with me, Brendan Waits, here in Ocean Grove, Victoria, Australia, and the guy on the other screen or in your other ear if you're listening to the podcast. It is Cam Blake in Tasmania, Australia. Welcome back. Hello, everyone. How you going, Cameron?
Hello, Brendan. Episode 98. We're getting real close.
Well, it's just
Super
about time
close
to raise the bat.
It is. I'm good, mate. A little bit tired, a little bit run down, but I'm all good.
You have been in 40 different states, even though there's only 7 in Australia, but you've been in all of them.
Well, I've been in the state of tiredness, emotional. I've been in all states.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I've been very busy. But it's good to get back, and got about a week or so off before another little trip, and then we're almost done for the year, which would be good.
Yes. You have been burning the candle at both ends for about a month now, and it's time for a rest.
These bags they look all right on this thing, but the bags are getting bigger.
I'd just like to explain straight off the top why my lighting is so
whack. Why do you look so dull?
Because Cameron, we are recording this afternoon. That's right. This has gone out Friday evening. We have recorded this not a few hours ago. So
this is practically live, isn't it? Really?
It's as bad as live as we're going to get.
So how does that explain? How does that explain your lighting?
Well, because my office has got a great big window behind me. I'm now backlit. So the stupid Zoom algorithm says, "Hey, you're backlit. I'm going to make you dark."
Hey, you know what it does?
See, and when I do something like this, it makes me look better. Anyway, whatever.
Just don't hold your hand up like that. That doesn't look good.
Oh,
hey, you know what it does do? It makes you look like you're in your scene there in your background.
All right. Well, funny you should say that. And when we talk about our background shortly, that's a very good segue, Cameron. I like it.
Thank you. But
first, thank you to everyone who has liked, subscribed, followed the channel. We say this every week. Thank you so much. 680 subs on the YouTubes, which is nothing to be sneezed at. They say the first 1,000's the hardest.
Well, we haven't got that yet.
We're getting there.
It's going up though.
I think the big one is the October comp is now done and dusted. We have closed the books on that one.
Jesus, that was big.
Cam is rethinking his idea of having trees as the subject.
All right, next month is going to be sky.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, next month is photo. Yeah, no,
photo.
It was a very broad topic, but it must be said, the quality, and we don't need to blow smoke at our lovely listeners and viewers, but the quality was absolutely brilliant. Barely a dud amongst it. It was
very impressive. It was super duper hard. And the good thing was we were somewhat organized, because we actually started looking through the photos as they were coming through. So we're almost shortlisting it as it came along. Yeah. But it still took a while to get our top 10 together. And then we got out of the top 10, we had a similar top 3. And then we did. And then we may or may not have picked the winner.
So the way we judge it, folks, is Cam goes through, picks out his favorites. And this time we would normally do a top 5, but because there were so many great entries, we extended it to a top 10. He picked out his top 10. Without me seeing it, I picked out my top 10. And then we compared notes, and there was 3 images that both appeared in our top 10s, which was go on to be the podium, I guess. And then we had to pick one out of that. And after we argued for hours over which should be the winner, we have come to a winner. Are we announcing that now?
Do you want to do it right away, or maybe do our backgrounds and then move the? We can't just, because people are just going to tune out if they do it now.
It's a cliffhanger, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to start with my background.
We're going. You know what we should do? We're going to bury the winner. We're going to bury the winner inside this episode somewhere. We're not going to tell you where.
Yeah, that's a good
idea. If you want to know who won the October tree competition, you got to listen to the whole thing. Yeah. I'm going to move it off our little notes here.
Yeah, I bet you the first person
stick it someone.
The first person that hears it and sees it is going to put a comment below. Hey, everyone, scroll through to this point.
We can't move it afterwards, can we?
No, that's fine. No, great. Let's do it like that.
We'll keep you in suspenders. It's now moved into our notes somewhere else.
Okay, well, that'll be a first. And in another first for the Down South Photo Show, we're talking backgrounds. And for the first time ever in 98 episodes, my background is a photo that I did not take, nor did you. So
can you claim it as yours then? Can you claim it as a background?
I'm going to give full credit, and he said I could use it, so I'm using it.
All right, you go first then.
The reason why I didn't take that photo is because I'm in that photo. So that was the month ago Bright Festival of Photography sunrise workshop that you and I did up at the top of Mount Buffalo on a gorgeous morning. It must be said that'll
stick. A good morning.
That'll stick in the memory for quite some time. And anyway, we were taking a few shots and we saw a photographer down at that lookout taking photos. And I just made the suggestion, hey, that'd make a good photo. No sooner has I said it that the photographer moved on. So I said to the group,
well, they did.
Allow me. I ran down there and got out on that lookout and look at that classic photographer pose. Hey, I think I even had a lens cap on at that point. But anyway, I posed for people to take that photo. And good on you, Dave Marland. Thank you so much for supplying me with that photo. Dave also came with us on the Murray Mallee workshop.
Yeah, he's also just booked into my Flinders Island workshop as well. He's getting around a bit. Yeah,
no worry. And gave us beer, and so he gets featured as the background. So Dave Marland, thank you for taking my background photo this week. Maybe we should start letting people submit photos for our background. No, we probably should. They should be our photos, shouldn't they?
Can we just stop at the photo comps? They're hard enough.
No, right. That's a bit out of control. Cameron, your background, please.
I was going to firstly say that that's a great photo by Dave Marland, and one that I would suggest he couldn't have taken with a Canon if he had a Canon, but he doesn't use Canon anymore. He's seen the lightweight option, and you like that? And he's gone with the Olympus. So that was pretty good. Right, yeah. Crapping on. I'll go to mine.
What's your background?
So I didn't know this section was famous of Kakadu, but apparently it is. So this is an aerial shot at sunrise over the Kakadu National Park in the top end where I've just come back from. And down in the left-hand corner, you can see there's a bit of yellowy, orangey archway there. That is called the Arch, which apparently is quite famous in Kakadu. Now, I didn't realize that. I'm not sure if you can hike into it. I think it's something that can only be seen by the air. But it's also, from what the pilot told us, is also where they did the Qantas ad with the kids in the choir outfits standing on some landscapes. I believe they did that in this section as well. But so this is this is one of our sunrise shoots that we did with the doors off on a nice little R44 chopper. All that haze you can see, there was lots of burning off and fires going on up there. So that actually created a bit of atmosphere, which is good. But it's an amazing place. It was hot. It was 33, 34 degrees by the time we got up in that chopper at sunrise. So, wow. But great spot. If you've never been to Kakadu, definitely on your travels one day, go and see it. Of course, you can join me next year if you want to come along, but it's a really amazing place, incredible landscape, incredible wildlife. We had a great time. So that's where my background's from.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like an awesome trip. I was keeping up with your posts on the socials and just looked fantastic. In particular, the bird life that you managed to get into.
It was, we didn't even go for bird life, so to speak. We went to try and get some storms and some sort of real outbacky sort of scenes. And the wet season is really delayed at the moment. Doesn't seem to be coming through. So we didn't get any storms, but what we missed in storms, we made up for wildlife. The birds were just incredible. Every bird you can think of up in the top end was there. It was very cool. So we had a great time, and 5-star Dan was there as well. He was very handy for the trip, and we had a great time.
That mind-blowingly good. Is it 150 to 400 Olympus lens you've got?
Yeah,
really did. I mean, look, it's the Archer, not the Arrow, but it looks like it did a great job for you.
I tell you what, that lens, like it's an expensive lens, and when I bought it, I'll be honest, I thought I'll give it a go. Maybe I won't like it. Maybe I'll just play around with it for a while and move it on. And I like to sort of swap and change a bit, but I think that's something that's going to stay in my kit forever because it is just a phenomenal wildlife lens. And we had other people on the trip. We had this one problem the whole way through with this Canon R6 and trying to get the autofocus and tracking all synced up to work. And it was a nightmare to try and set up. And I was watching YouTube videos. I was reading a manual. Other people that were using Canons were chipping in online and saying, oh, you need to do this. And in the end, what we found was the problem, because the big issue was it just wasn't tracking birds. When I put my camera up to it, it puts a box around the bird and it does everything really cool. This Canon was just not doing what it was meant to be doing. This lady was missing shots. And But what happened is the touch screen on her camera, every time she put it up to her face, her nose
Oh.
was moving the focal point. So the tracking was starting up in the corner here when the bird was down the bottom here, and it wasn't working. But she still got great shots because we switched her over just to sort of do single shot, try and just get as much as she could. But compared to the Olympus setup, we had another guy there, Tony, who also had the same Olympus setup as I did. And it just appeared that we were nailing a lot of bird shots, and the others with the same sort of tracking system on their camera just wasn't working so much. So I came back from that trip saying, you know what, I'm going to keep this lens, and it works really well. And the shots I got, I was really happy with. There were some really cool birds like owls, and I got an Azura kingfisher, which I've been looking for.
So jealous. That is my favorite Australian bird, is the Azure kingfisher, and I've only ever seen them in Kakadu. So
you know what, they've got them down here in the Tarkine.
Okay, I know someone who's going to be in the Tarkine in April, so we might.
They are in the Tarkine, but I've only seen them twice there, and I did not have a lens ready. Of course, I just
actually tell a lie. I saw one in the Noosa National Park up in the Everglades area once.
Yeah,
it's of course not a camera in sight.
No, they're a cool bird. I really liked them, but we had a great trip, and thanks to all the customers that came along with them. I'm sure they all had a great time. We had lots of laughs. It was one of those ones where everyone just got on really well, and it wasn't inappropriate, but it got to the gutter pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I'll put up this little kingfisher here as well. Here,
we
have a quick look at
Lovely.
that.
Thank you.
I'll cover it up. Hang on.
For those of you listening, Cam has just changed his background to an Azure kingfisher, and I mean, gee whiz, aren't they just a gorgeous bird?
They are. And he was diving in and out of the water, which was really cool.
You're gonna have to cover your camera again because I've just made you full screen, so just so people can get it. There we go. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, he was very cool.
Yeah. So but you can pause the video because if you want to see it longer.
We'll put it up. We'll put it up on the website or something like that. But it was really cool. The wildlife was great.
Look at that. I'm even darker again. I don't know.
You're fading away.
There's actually sun trying to come out here in Ocean Grove.
No.
What the hell?
In Ocean Grove.
Yeah. Anyway, all good.
Yeah.
All good.
Yeah.
What are we going to talk about in this episode 98, Cam? I know what we're going to talk about because I made the list.
Okay. You run it. You go with it.
So
what do you got?
One thing that I've started to pick up on, particularly this year, because we've started to run the workshops together, and I'm doing more stuff in the field with people who are keen on their photography, is I've been seeing and commenting to a lot of people who use what I like to call the spray and pray approach. If you're not familiar with that, it's just, what's that?
Like golf.
Yeah, exactly. That is my golf. Exactly. The spray and pray approach is literally, here's my scene. I'm going to take 1,000 images from, I'm going to move half a centimeter and take a photo. Then I'm going to move half a centimeter that way and take a photo. And then I'm going to move over here. And then I'm going to change the ISO. And then I'm going to change the white balance. And I'm going to blah, 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 do all these things. And I'm just going to take thousands of photos in this location in the hope that one of them's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I want to talk about why that rarely works. And the main reason it rarely works is because you don't give enough time and energy and effort to the one composition. I've actually been guilty of this before. I get a little bit, we've talked about this on the show before, I get a little bit crazy when there's an awesome sunrise. I want to be in 10 different places at once.
Yeah.
And that is always detrimental to my photography. I always come back and go, why didn't I just focus more on that awesome composition I got there?
Yeah.
But I missed focus, or I had the wrong aperture, or, and what I'm here to tell you folks is focus on one composition, find your composition, and then let the light come to you, I think is the way forward, rather than just going ahead and it's the same with any photography. I said a lot, luckily in the last few years, I've been going to nieces and nephews' weddings. And the best photographers are the ones that aren't running around like headless chickens. The ones that do go crazy and run everywhere, they miss the shots. It's funny though.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just did a couple of nights ago. I did a camera talk at a camera club down in Huon Valley, down here in Tassie, And that was one of the things I said as well, that, this say, look at you trying to light yourself up. The spray and pray approach for landscape photography definitely doesn't work. It's all about, I think people need to realize that photography is a game of patience a lot of the time. And once you get better at it and your knowledge gets better at it, it's not necessarily patience, it's knowledge that gets you the better shots. But you're right. Like I can, even speaking of, Dave Marlin's going to love this episode. We're going to mention him again.
Goodness.
Like he used to do a similar thing. He used to run around like a blue-ass fly trying to get 600 different compositions before the sun went up or down. And a lot of times he'd miss them because he's like, oh, that's a great shot, I'll do that. And then it wasn't really right. He'd get maybe 90% of them all right, but none of them 100% right. So, and it's the same, like you said, across the board, any genre. Unless you're doing sports where, you've just got to go with the action where you can and try and hope, you can't just shoot a million shots and think they're going to be fine. Not only does it, run the risk of getting the shot wrong or making an error, but it's a pain in the ass to edit them later on. You got to go through 100%. Thousands of shots later on. So I think, though, what's caused this, like we never used to spray and spray with film. Never. We never did. So what we do, because we've got memory cards with 3,000 photos on it, for some silly reason, we think, well, I can take 3,000 photos in a minute. I'm going to do it. And it just doesn't work. So the talk I gave was the similar talk I gave at BFOP this year about getting your composition and your aperture right and the time of day and checking your histogram and all that kind of stuff. But you're right. Composition is always key. If you're taking 2 seconds to find compositions, you're doing yourself a disservice for your photography. You need to really stand there, take it in, have a look around, give yourself 5 minutes to get your bearings. And, like I said, sometimes there's moments where you do spray and pray. If something's really amazing going on, you're like, I've just got to get those shots. But if you really want to improve and get better at it, you've just got to take your time and be patient.
It's definitely quality over quantity when it comes to taking better landscape photos, I think. And I think you're exactly right. What people get sucked into is the technology. So, okay, just because your camera can shoot 30 frames per second doesn't mean you have to shoot 30 frames per second.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The caveat I'd put on that might be wildlife, and particularly like, African wildlife, you're seeing a kill or something like that and you're photographing that, or, fast moving birds and that. Yeah, sure. I understand that, where you might want to just set it to burst mode. But it is still all about the composition. So a good example I can give you is it took me 10 years to get a photo of a blue wren. I always wanted, or a superb fairy wren, I think is the proper name. I always wanted to get this photo. They're one of my favorite birds.
Yeah.
And I was down at Cape Otway. I was camping down there, and this little blue wren was going all around our campsite. And I'm sat down and I just picked up my camera and pointed at it and just racked off all these photos. Bang, 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 bang. Yep, looked great, but the composition was so bad. Like bird right in the middle, blah, blah. So I stopped. I sat in a chair. I literally had a beer with me and sat down and waited for the bird to come to me. And it would started to, and it would start, and then I was able to set up that composition a lot better. So as boring as it can be sometimes, and man, the amount of times where I've had to kill time as a landscape photographer. But that's when I put on a podcast like the Down South Photo Show or something.
Down South Photo Show, or crack a beer and do both.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. But it's so worth it. It's so worth it to spend that extra time on calculating your composition a lot better. Composition is everything. It's the number one as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. The other one that spray and pray does apply to is something like behind me, a bit of aerial, when you're, you might have a 20-minute flight somewhere and doors are off and you got to make the most of it. You still got to have, there's still an element of patience for that. Before you leave, you get your settings right, you get it all set up, ready to go.
Yeah.
Same if you're doing birds and stuff like that. There's an element of, before you go spraying, of being patient and setting things up. But yeah, you're 100% right. It's just all about that composition. I said on this talk the other night, the same thing. A lot of people ask, like, oh, are they all composite images, or were you bracketing, or were you focus stacking, or like these are all just single frame images? And they're like, oh, really? Like you didn't have to bracket here, like you didn't take 10 shots of that and then stitch them all together. I'm like, no, I don't. Like I don't do all these fast burst shots and then try and fix it up later. Like to me, as I said the other day, like to me, the real beauty behind and the magic photography is when you can sit there and pick a composition and the light just pops for that couple of minutes and you get that shot. and you walk away. Like that's the moment when you go, right, I think I'm a photographer because I did all the right things. I was here, I got my composition, I've got my settings right. That they're the cool moments.
There's nothing wrong with taking a lot of photos of one
No.
composition, but the secret is to take the photos as the light changes, because it's a funny thing with natural light in terms of landscape. Sometimes the light comes, you take the shot, that's so good. 10 seconds later, the light's better.
Yes.
And just when you think you've reached peak goodness in terms of the light, it goes again.
It goes again.
How many times? I mean, it's happened to me a lot where I see the best light from the car. And it's like, God damn it.
That's we did that on the Flinders Ranges on this trip. The very first night went to that classic Razorback shot. And the light was you could just tell the light was going to be nice. And I remember talking to Dan. Dan's like, "Oh, this is better than the last couple of times I've been here." I'm like, "Yeah, the light's good. It's looking really good." And I'm like, "That's bad though." And he goes, "Why is that?" I said, "Because we're going to nail this shot night one, and then we're going to have to fill everything else for the rest of the trip." But what happened is, usually on that first session of the workshops, I let people set up their own way, how they usually do that shot, and get a bit of a feel for how they shoot. If they're doing something fundamentally wrong, I'll fix it up so they don't miss the shot. But they all did this shot. They're all getting the right settings and all doing okay. And then the sun literally just went boop, and they went, "Okay, start packing up." I'm like, no, we're not packing up. Give it another 15, 20 minutes. Like, why? I'm like, the light gets better. Like, it gets softer. You get this, that sort of magenta color in the sky. And 15 minutes later, bang, it's just like this light explosion went off. And they're all like, "Holy shit, this is heaps better than when the sun was up, blah, 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 blah." So you're right. You just got to be patient, hang around, put in the effort. And that's how you become a better photographer.
Absolutely. Which links back to, I think you have more of a problem with them than I do, tripods. So
I thought you were going to say Instagrammers.
Yeah, well, that too.
Those two.
Tripods are a necessary evil in photography, unfortunately. Tripods are great, obviously, at holding your camera steady and keeping it still for when you're taking longer exposures and all that sort of stuff, and you're under 1/60th of a second and you don't want to shoot at stupid ISOs. I get that. But what tripods are also excellent at is locking your camera off on one composition, and you get it right and you don't move. And you can just leave it there, and you can literally come back to it half an hour later if you wanted to.
That's right.
So that's where a tripod is really useful.
It's funny you say that. I do that when I do use a tripod. One of the tips I give people is I get to a location, and the first thing I do is, okay, there's the big, beautiful mountain scene, or there's the whatever we're shooting at, the main topic. So I know that's there. And then I spend the next few minutes looking around, and we did it on the Murray Mallee. We looked around and found different compositions, and I thought, okay, there's 2 or 3 different good compositions I like here. And then depending if you're in a group with friends or customers, depending what you do, if I'm in a group with mates where I don't really care about anyone else apart from what I'm doing, I will stick my tripod. I'll set it up and just stick it somewhere where I think that best composition is. And then people go, "Oh, that's a bit taken." They walk off, but I'll still walk around my camera and do stuff. But I know when that light's ready to go, I'm ready to pop. My tripod's ready to go. Like you said, I'm locked into that composition. It's a couple of little adjustments and away you go. But yeah, tripods, they are great for that. The main reason I take a tripod these days is for security, just so you can whack someone on the head if they come looking for you. But yeah, you're right. Tripods are, as much as they're a necessary evil, they're a great tool to slow you down as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's the key here. You mentioned that you have a group with you. The sun's gone down, right? Let's go on to the next thing. We're in too much of a hurry, and people want constant stimulation and gratification and stuff. But if you only stick it out for a little bit longer, I noticed this actually last night. It wasn't the best sunset in the world here, but I was here working, doing stuff, and I had to go to the front to my van and just looked up at the sky, and it was a good 45 minutes after the sun had gone down. And here's all this wonderful magenta color going from yellow on the horizon into magenta, into the deepest blue you've ever seen. And I was like, man, there it is. Like, everyone's gone home by that point. That's blue hour at its best.
We did at Kakadu, Fiona, who was one of our customers, we stuffed the sunset up. I'll be honest. We went to go do a shot at this sort of billabongy thing, and it just wasn't working. So I'm like, shit, okay, we're like, everything in Kakadu is miles apart. Like, there's no. Anyway, Dan, 5-star Dan always has a bit of a laugh with me. He drives one car, I drive the other car. And the people in that car will be obviously talking to him. Oh, where are we going now? What's going on? And he won't necessarily know. And he'll be like, oh, Cam will pull a rabbit out of the hat somewhere. Like he'll pull something out of his ass. And I'm driving along going, I know he's saying that in that car, and I'm trying to find a spot. I'm like, shit. Anyway, we came down this road, and there was a couple of those real stark white trunk trees just in this field. And it was starting to get magenta in the sky. I'm like, bang, pull over here. This will do. So we took a few shots of that. It was okay. It was acceptable. But the light had got to that point you're talking about, and we were just sort of starting to real pack up. And I turned around to Fiona, and she was just sitting on her tripod, on her arm, on a tripod like that, just leaning and watching. And I said, do not move. And I did a portrait session. You inspired me. Yeah, I got my camera, and I went back and I took it. She goes, oh, don't take a shot of me. She goes, I never look good in photos. And I took a shot of her on her camera, and I showed her, and she goes, holy shit, that's the best photo of me I've ever seen. And I said, it's nothing to do with me. It's the light, like this soft light. It looks brilliant. And then we did another one later in the trip, same sort of time of day. I did it with my camera and from a distance, and she had her glasses like hanging in her mouth, like thinking about something, and it just looked great. So yeah, don't go when the sun pops below. Stay another, I usually say a half an hour.
Yeah.
That gives you plenty of time.
Yeah. And it's crazy the way it changes the scene. Silhouettes become more apparent. Compositions become, different, the way they're lit. I mean, then it's like what you thought was the lead subject in your shot isn't anymore.
No, that's right.
It's a different, and you can just milk a scene, as long as you stay there almost until you can't see anymore. You'll still get some shots, even when it's that dark. It's with your tripod and all that sort of stuff. So, So anyway, folks, to tick off on that little conversation, get out of the habit of thinking that you're going to get better photos if you take more. It's just not the case. It rarely works. Here's a thought as well.
Go buy yourself a 32 gig card or a 16 gig card, and just like have the most limited amount of photos you can have on a camera. Try that for a while, because then you run out of photos. You're like, shit, that's the best photo I can ever take. But I went and sprayed it on that daffodil on 100 photos. I've got no photos left. It's good. It's good advice, and just get in the habit of not spraying.
Who doesn't love a daffodil?
Yeah, they're okay.
I think topic 2 that we've got written there, we might hang over till next week, because we've still got a fair bit of meat on this bone to get through this episode.
Okay, yeah. I think that topic is probably more accustomed to being a bit later anyway. I think let's not think about it just yet.
I know it's horrible, but anyway, we'll talk about that down the track. Real quick gear talk. I've got a new camera.
Yeah, we did this episode like 500 episodes ago, didn't we?
Literally 2 years ago.
Yeah, and you did this whole build up of, I'm going to buy a new camera. I'm going to buy this, and I got all excited.
Hang on, it's here somewhere.
What is it?
It's an iPhone 15 Pro. Yeah. See, look, proof that we're shooting it. If anyone saw that real quick, the time on my phone, proof that we were shooting this in the middle of the day.
12:06. So you upgraded from the 14 Pro.
13 Pro.
Oh, 13 Pro. Oh, that's a big upgrade then.
I don't think it is.
Does it come with a free memory card?
Oh, mate,
is it weatherproof?
I'm one of these, like, your contract's up, so you get a new phone. But the reason I do it is because the old phone goes down through the family.
Yes.
So the daughter's now got a 13 Pro, and she's very, very happy with that. So whatever. But what I'm yet to do, and by this time next episode, I will have taken a few photos with it just to see if there's anything new. Apparently the lenses have been improved. I think the zoom is better. There's a few bits and pieces on there that I want to have a play. I just literally picked it up 2 days ago. I haven't had a chance to have a play with it, but I do use my phone a lot, particularly with like hiking and for shots that I just want. I'm not necessarily going to be selling them or anything like that, but photos that I want. But also I use it a lot for showing me the composition without having to get all my gear out. That's the biggest advantage.
I think the iPhones are the best compositional tool you can have in your kit. You just go up there, put it on wide. That looks good. Oh, that looks zoom in there looks good.
It's the modern day equivalent of doing that.
I think it is. Yeah.
Making the box with your fingers.
You just got all light. You got all lit up then. You look lovely.
Yeah. See, look, I don't know why zoom.
What about if you turn that lamp off? Does that lamp off?
No, it makes me worse. Yeah. Let's spend half this episode talking about how crap my lighting is.
I think it needs to be said. Well, that's exciting.
I actually look better on here than I do in real life. Anyway, it's another
you
story.
do. That's not hard for both of us.
Yeah, true. Exactly.
Yeah. The new iPhones, they are pretty good. Like I said, I used it for my trip at Kakadu a fair bit. I use it a lot now just for behind the scenes stuff, but
yeah, it's great for that.
which is good. And video, like we're trying to do a bit more video on our workshops and stuff like that behind the scenes, and
Yeah,
like that they do like 4K video and things like that.
incredible. And the cinematic mode in video is nuts. That's so good. So
I don't think I've tried that.
yeah, it's cool. It basically gives you nice shallow depth of field and locks onto faces and stuff. It's a bit of fun. It's all computational, of course, but it works quite well. I like it a lot. So anyway, we will talk more about that in a future episode. Sorry, you were going to say I
was going to say
again.
A funny little story about Kakadu. We went to a few swimming holes, and there was no crocs. Thankfully, we made sure we checked it all, and all the rangers have been down there each day checking them off. But I don't know why or how this happens, and this may be controversial, Brendan. I don't know. Maybe I'm just old. I don't know. But the amount of arse cheeks I've seen at water holes of the last couple of weeks, like, do girls not wear proper bikinis anymore? Everything was G-string ass hanging out, which
it's
you know what, I'm neither here or there. It doesn't do much for me. I'm not saying they shouldn't wear what you want. Don't care. But everywhere we went, there was this like, oh my God, there's ass cracks and girls in the little bikinis walking around everywhere.
Yeah.
So anyway, Dan and I, being the characters we are, we're going swimming, but people like to talk to us. We're very approachable. So especially Dan. Dan's very approachable. So almost every waterhole we got to, just out of habit, these young girls in bikinis and G-strings just started talking to Dan. So I said to him, I said, you're looking a bit like an old filthy man here, Dan. I'm there talking to me. I'm not doing anything wrong. But what we found was a really great conversation starter. This is for anyone who wants to talk to people at swimming holes and waterfalls. If they're in bikinis or not, that's up to you. But if you want to start a conversation, teach them how to do the long exposure on your iPhone.
Yes.
No one knows how to do that. And anyway, so we had our little Tas Photo workshop things on, and everyone was like, "Oh, what are you doing here? You're a tour or something?" Oh, we're a photography group, and I've just got my measly little iPhone. Like, oh, did you know? See that beautiful waterfall there? And bang. So Dan used that to his advantage. He had a lot of conversations with a lot of people at swimming holes, but it was amazing how many people just didn't know the long exposure option on your iPhone. So for those who don't know, you got to put it into your live mode. I think we've spoken about this on one of the episodes. Take a photo of the waterfall in live mode, then look at the photo that you've taken. It'll have a little drop down. You can change it to a long exposure. And I showed all the guests on our trip as well. They're like, oh, wow, that's cool. But it still didn't change the fact that there's a lot of arse cheeks floating around in water holes everywhere. Brendan,
interesting segue into that conversation, Cam. But I think it is further proof that we're old.
I don't get it. I really don't. It's
the look of the moment, mate. That's just how it is.
I was literally scratching my head the whole time, you don't want to look because you're trying to be polite and be decent, but you're getting out of the thing. It's like, oh, there's okay. So everywhere you went, there's like like a jungle full of G-strings.
Just accept it. It is what it is. It's what the
kids
it is
are doing,
it is, mate.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm thinking next trip to Kakadu, I'm taking a mankini, and we'll see how many looks we get.
I want photos of that, and that can be your background next year. This time next year.
No, I don't think so. Right. Hey, question for you.
Yes.
Who won our competition?
Well, I'm glad you asked.
Should we do DCAM first?
No, let's do
Or should we do it the middle of DCAM? Just stop out of nowhere.
Yeah, okay. That's right.
We better do a winner. All right.
The winner, which is now going to appear on the screen, which means I have to edit this thing even more before it goes up in a few hours' time. But that's fine. That's what I do. I'm the editor.
Do you want me to start swearing as well?
No. The winner. Congratulations to Sarah Jane Eggins for this wonderful photograph.
Yes.
Sarah,
it's actually titled Bushfire.
It's superb. There was heaps of great entries, and look, apologies to a lot of people. The top 10 is
there was
good.
20 winners on this easily.
Yeah, there pretty much was. But Cam and I sort of kept coming back to this one.
Yeah.
It was the old hold a gun to my head and choose. Well, I'm going to pick this one. Yeah. I love it for its in many ways simplicity. I love the fact that it is on point for the topic, which was trees.
Yep.
Obviously, that single solitary tree peeking through the smoke there
Yeah.
makes me wonder if that tree is vulnerable and in trouble from a bushfire and all that sort of stuff. It's a cool shot. It's very atmospheric.
Well, if you
really
look
well composed.
if you look also further into the back, I really loved the same thing. Like it's the tree's perfectly sort of framed in the middle, like that. That's almost, you can almost see that tree screaming out for help. But in the background, you can actually see little bits of flames in the very background. So there's actually a fire raging through there as it's taken. But the lighting behind it, just the silhouette of the tree looks really cool. It's really atmospheric.
Yeah.
And sadly, it's something that we see all too often in Australia is bushfires and beautiful big trees. But it almost looks like it's a bit of a survivor as well. It's the only one sort of standing that tall. So
congratulations, Sarah Jane. That's an awesome photo. Sarah Jane's won something. Is it my turn? It is my turn. Sarah Jane has won a $200 gift voucher for Ocean Grove Camera and Photo. So
excellent.
Sarah Jane, if you want that turned into a lovely canvas print, or if you want to get something else done on canvas or printed or whatever, we'll get in touch with you and let you know that you are our winner. Also, we will be putting up, I'm going to say, at least a top 10 for the People's Choice Award, Cam.
Absolutely. Yeah. Top 10.
Which will roll through November. And the People's Choice will be announced the first week of December. And they win something from Cameron.
They do. Can we do a couple of honourable mentions?
100% we can.
Yeah. So we also love James Davison's shot from the Great Alpine Rail Trail. It's got a beautiful dead tree. It's got a cockatoo. It's got a moon, and it's got some shallow dip the field reeds in the foreground. And Grant Smythe or Smith, I imagine it's Smythe with
Smythe,
Morning Mist. Smythe. That was also that's a cracker image. That one. It's got beautiful creek bed, beautiful light, beautiful fog.
I
really
see
well
that
composed.
photo and I just go, God damn, I want to be there.
Yeah,
I wanted to shoot that.
Yeah, I said the same thing when I saw that. I'm like, geez, I reckon I've been to places like that before, but just haven't got that sort of atmosphere. So, but yeah, like there's so many great shots in there. There's some couple of cool shots with auroras. There's a couple of dead trees. There's some really good foggy ones. The Colleen Hope put up a couple of eucalypts or old snow gums in the mist as well, which are really cool. There's a bit of everything. So it was a pretty incredible collection. We're not going to announce what next month's topic is, are we?
No, we don't do that until later on. But there will be another topic in December.
Yep.
So basically we do, well, every couple of months we put out a topic and then we get people to vote on them and etc. So
it won't
awesome.
be trees.
No, it won't be. But awesome. Again, thank you and congratulations to Sarah Jane Eggins for an awesome photo.
Well done. I reckon you're choosing next month's topic. It'll be two ants fighting on a leaf in winter with a sunset and a shooting star.
Yep. Perfect. Sounds good to me. Yep. Basically the most impossible thing to photograph.
Yeah. Just maybe we get one entry.
Maybe the theme might be impossible. And that's it. There you go. That's cryptic.
Let's not jump the gun too
Dear
much.
Cam. Dear Cam is one of the segments that has made its way all through 98 episodes. I'm happy to say. Well, I mean, we don't do one every week, but we don't. God knows we don't do an episode every week, but that's okay.
No, that's my bad.
Dear Cam, this is a nice, short and sweet one. Let's see how we roll with this. Dear Cam, I recently ordered a new camera, a Sony A7 Mark IV. Nice piece of kit.
Nice.
Is there anything I should do settings-wise when the camera arrives? Cheers, Linda in Kew, Victoria. Hello, Linda. And that's a good that's worthy of a Dear Cam for sure.
What do you do with the new camera? Well,
is there anything I should do settings-wise? So like straight out of the box, is there something that I need to do?
Well, I guess there's a few things you would do. First thing I'd probably do is make sure that I'm shooting in the right format I want to shoot in. So I maybe set it up to be RAW and JPEG, or RAW or JPEG, whichever one Linda wants to do. I'd probably go and make sure the color profiles are where I want them to be. Probably go and check the screen settings, make sure it's not too dull or too bright out of the packet. What else? I probably, there's a lot of settings on cameras these days. Something else is the viewfinders where you can change what all the details are. And
Yep. And you can also change the actual diopter, the
diopter as well.
A lot of people overlook that. I find when I do my entry-level workshop, it's one of the first things we do because people are going to be looking through that viewfinder. And I reckon more than half of the people had no idea it was there. And almost all of them, when we make the adjustment, go, "Oh my God, I thought this thing was just blurry."
It's funny you say that. The lady had the same sort of issues with that Canon tracking on the trip we had. I said, "I'll give it here. Let me have a look." I was getting shitty with it. And I'm like, I looked through it. I'm like, bloody hell. Okay, you've got really strong glasses. That's fine. I went to go change the diopter, and the diopter looks like, say she shot somewhere near salt water, but the little diopter was sort of rusted, stuck.
Oh, really?
So I couldn't actually change the diopter to adjust it to my eyes to try and look at it. So yeah, there's another tip. Don't if you get a new camera, don't take it down to the beach straight away. But I reckon maybe the first things you do is, for me, I'd probably just go and make sure I'm shooting in the right format. Get all those basic settings right. So, whether or not it's the diopter or it's the screen brightness or it's the maybe even the copyright details. If you want to put copyright on your metadata and stuff like that, you can do it all through there. But I would certainly suggest when you get a new camera to get it out of the box and play around with it as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, definitely.
And get used to what settings you do have and how to change them and stuff like that. So, I think that. What about you? Got anything to add to that?
No, that's pretty much in a nutshell. But two things I would do. One is take a photo. I would take a photo of a white wall at aperture f/22 and check the sensor. What that does,
clean,
it actually, well, you would think so, wouldn't you, Cameron?
You would.
But from my experience, and particularly on full frame cameras, sometimes they come with dust built into the sensor at no extra charge. Isn't that nice?
That's amazing. That's a lovely thing to do.
And it's really annoying when you're out in the field and you're taking it, you're excited with your new camera, and then you're seeing big splodges in your blue skies. So it's one thing just to double check that sensor, make sure that's all good.
And when you have a look at your sensor, you get your car key and you just scrape the bits of dust off the sensor when you get it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Don't
blow into it. Make sure you do that.
Or get as much saliva on your sensor as you can.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
Disclaimer: don't do any of that.
We jest.
We're not liable. Yes.
No, probably the first thing I would do, though, when I turn the camera on is check the firmware and just make sure it's running the latest version of the firmware. So quite often what happens is these cameras might ship from the factory and it might take 6 months before they get in your hand. And in the meantime, Sony have put out 2 firmware updates to the
if it's Canon, they've released 6 other models since.
Yeah, that's right. Gee, we're going hard at Canon this episode.
I hate Canon.
Yeah, I know.
I've decided they don't rock up to BFOP, and their tracking is not as good as it should be. I don't think.
Not as good as it's made out to be. That's true.
And like I must admit, I started to hate this lovely Helen. Her name is her lovely Canon camera. I hated it by the end of it because you go in there and like tracking. Okay, I've got to do AF servo. I've got to do this, that. Like it was like you had to reinvent the wheel just to turn some settings on, and I was just like, wow, this is really tricky. So or maybe I'm just stupid. I don't know.
No, they get what they deserve. I get it. But just to rewind quickly, firmware is basically what operates it's the operating system of your camera. So like you've got a computer that runs Windows or runs Mac software. It needs some kind of firmware that actually runs the camera. So quite often that firmware may have been updated. It is pretty simple to do a firmware update. Most camera manufacturers, I know our friends at OM System make it very simple. You literally just plug your camera into your PC or whatever you're using, go to their website and update the firmware. It's pretty straightforward. So,
or you know what else you can do? You can get on
take it to Ocean Grove Camera and Photo. We do it for you as well.
You can get on the OI Share app, and you can update the firmware via the app, which is pretty cool as well.
Yeah, it is very, very cool. So, Linda, hopefully that's answered your questions for when your flash new Sony A7 Mark IV arrives. If you have a DearCam question, please send it to us. Leave it in a comment below. Jump on dsps.com.au. Haven't plugged the website this episode yet. How about that? Jump on dsps.com.au, say good day to us, and hit us up with a DearCam question if you've got one. Now, speaking of dsps.com.au, you can go over there and buy us a beer. We love this part of the show. This is where we find out if anyone's bought us a beer for the week.
You're so polished. Look at you. You are unbelievable these days.
Absolutely. Anyone bought us a beer this week, Cam?
I feel like I'm just hanging on this show these days. You just run and I just try and hang on. We did a few beer donations. Mel H actually gave us 2 beers. Thanks Mel. Andrew C also gave us a beer. And then we're still drinking the slab from Jenny a couple of weeks ago as well.
Appreciate that. Yeah, no, awesome.
Yeah.
And I suppose probably should have said this off the top, but we're sorry that we've been bereft of episodes. I think it's October and we've maybe put out 3 episodes. No, it's actually November now, but in October we put out 2. But that's all right. We were out and about, and
we were out and about.
Was out and about, so that's all right.
I do have every time I go somewhere, I'm like, yep, I'm going to do an episode, and then. What I didn't realize was Darwin is an hour and a half behind you.
Yeah, with daylight.
I didn't realize I don't do daylight saving, so that screwed things up.
Anyway, it's fine.
Yeah, cool. Quick shout out to one of my best mates, Mark. He doesn't listen to the show; he never has, I don't think. But he's 45th birthday today. I rang him before and I said, "How you going? How's the big 50 going?" He goes, "Not 50." He goes, "I'm half at 90." I'm like, "All right, that's a good way to look at it." So he's feeling a pinch, but happy birthday to you, Mark.
Nice one, Mark. Can I?
Hey, sorry.
Go.
How did your little trip to Queensland go? Did you?
Oh, mate, it was fantastic.
Did it work? Did you?
It worked a treat. It worked a treat.
Awesome.
There were tears. I walked into a coffee shop where at a coffee place where him and his lovely partner were sitting, and it's safe to say we had to pick his jaw up off the ground. So it was great.
Yeah.
And then we went and played some golf, and we had some beers, and we sat around and told each other how good we are. It worked really well. It was a good trip.
You'll be starting a podcast soon.
Probably. Now it's time for a quick plug here on the Down South Photo Show. Very, very good friend of the show and person who's been on the show, Mr. Glenn Lavender, who a lot of our listeners will know. Probably knew him for a while. If you went to BFOP and did his workshop, everyone raved about how good his workshop was.
Even he did.
Even he did. Glenn, which he does, and so he should. Glenn is making his way down to Ocean Grove to run a couple of workshops with me. So we're doing those in January and February. It is Glenn Lavender's Natural Light Portrait Workshop, which I have done a couple of times, and believe you me, it is, in my opinion, the best workshop that he runs. So for Glenn to give up his time and come down and run them here in Ocean Grove through my little store is awesome. Yeah. Sorry to say the January one has sold out, but there are still places available for Sunday, February 25, and it is here in Ocean Grove. So if you're keen to travel down to Ocean Grove, if you're in Victoria, hey, look, even if you're interstate, we'll have you. You've got to make your own way here, of course, but jump on to my website, cameraandphoto.com.au. It will be linked below. You can click on the workshops page and you can book yourself in for that workshop. The January one sold out in 3 hours. The February one's just gone live. So hopefully there's still spots here, given that this is going out tonight. I would assume that there's still spots. So jump on.
I feel like I've been put on the bench.
Well, for this one you have been. Glenn is an absolute jet of an instructor, and well worth your while if you want to come on down and check
I make a request when you have these workshops with Glenn?
Yes, please. Yes, you can.
Can we get him a t-shirt or a hoodie to wear?
Yes.
So he doesn't forget the name of this bloody show.
That's right. Like he forgets every week.
Yeah.
We can
Unbelievable.
Yeah. All right. Well, Cam, what do you got coming up?
Like I said, I got about a week off down the Franklin River.
Yes.
And then off to Utah to scout Utah for next year's trips, which I now have 2 places available for next year's trip, which is late October for Utah. We've had a couple of people who are unable to come. So they've given us plenty of notice, which is good. But if you are keen on coming on a 10-day trip to Utah, it's late October 2024. There is 2 spots available. You can put a deposit down. Balance is due halfway through next year. Come and have a look at that amazing state of America.
That trip looks amazing.
Should be good.
Absolutely
but
amazing. So
that's all I've got, really.
Awesome, lovely. Hopefully you enjoyed the show, folks. Good to be back on deck. Can't guarantee there'll be an episode next week, but hey, we'll try.
No, we will be next week.
Or there will be. You heard it here.
There will be. Yeah,
Cameron, if Cameron says, Cameron does. I like it.
Yeah. There'll be one next week unless you pull out.
That's true. So that's it. That's the podcast. We'll see you for episode 99.
Do we just stop at 99 and just not do 100?
That's right. And just go into hiding.
Just say we quit.
Thanks for listening. Love you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Ciao.